Welcome to the Hospitality Breakroom, the podcast where we talk about the real conversation shaping the vacation rental industry. This season, we're diving into a topic that's becoming more important than ever: the relationship between vacation rentals and travel planners. For years, hotels have built strong partnerships with travel advisors and planners, while many vacation rental operators have struggled to understand how to work within that ecosystem. But that's changing. Today's travelers are looking for more personalized experiences, more space, and more curated stays. Travel planners are increasingly helping clients discover professionally managed vacation rentals as part of that experience. Throughout this season, we'll talk with travel planners, industry leaders, and hospitality professionals to better understand how these partnerships work, where the opportunities are, and what our industry can do to build stronger relationships with the advisor community. Whether you're a property manager, host, hospitality brand, or travel advisor, this season is designed to help bridge the gap between vacation rentals and the world of travel planning. Thanks for joining us in the break room. Let's get into today's episode. Hi, and welcome back to the Hospitality Breakroom. I'm Rachel Alday, and I have a really special guest today. His name is Joe Bartolomé. Did I say that right, Joe? I think I got it
You
better this
did. You did
time.
great.
Okay, I think it's an amazing name, and I like it a lot. And I'm proud that I even said it slightly close. And so Joe has a company called The Joes, and I recently heard about it. I'm going to let Joe talk more about his company and his background. But I met Joe because we are going to be working together in some ways with Abode and The Joes. And I just got really excited about his background, especially because he has a lot of hospitality background that's given him a lot of insight and experience in working with travel advisors. And I think everyone knows if you've listened to any other episodes this season, but we're talking all about vacation rental companies working with travel advisors this season. And I really have wanted to have conversations with people that have a lot of experience in that, as I think the majority of people in vacation rentals, we don't have experience with it. And so I wanted to bring more people that have, some of that insight, like from actually living and working with travel advisors in the past, so that we can have more of an educated discussion, and also so we can share some of that experience with the people that don't have it. So anyway, Joe, thank you for coming on the show with me. And do you want to talk about a little bit first about your background?
Sure. Yeah. No, super excited to be here. Thank you. So my background is I come out of the luxury hotel business, and I'm located in Northern California, Sonoma wine country, about an hour north of San Francisco. I own and operate a hotel called the Farmhouse Inn, and we are a small luxury high-end hotel, 25 rooms. I've been doing that for 25 years. And when we started the farmhouse, it was just a tiny little like B&B, and we grew it into, it's still small, but a really high-end, really well-recognized operation. We had a Michelin star in the restaurant for 14 seasons. In 2016, we were Travel and Leisure's Hotel of the Year. We Condé Nast Hotel of the Year, Andrew Harper Hideaway Hotel of the Year. We got just a lot of really amazing accolades, and really prided ourselves on exceptional customer service and really forging deep relationships with all of our guests. And so a lot of what I learned from all my years at Farmhouse, I'm trying to bring to my new project, which is the Joes. And the Joes is kind of a unique project. It's in the vacation rental space, but it's different than what most of the vacation rental property managers are doing that we're working with. We're looking at it kind of. My partner Joe and I found what we think is an interesting opportunity, which is here in wine country, we have a lot of restrictions around vacation rentals, and it's not unique to wine country. Every top market in America has more and more restrictions going into place around short-term rental. And so we know for a fact in our county alone, there is like 4,000 second homes that are ineligible for short-term rental that are occupied no more than 3 months a year. And so we said, how do we tap into that? What's the opportunity to really try and, find people that can stay in these homes, help these owners monetize their investments? And so the workaround is that 30 nights, 31 days, you're no longer in most parts of the US, and there are some exceptions. You're no longer required to have a short-term rental permit, and it becomes just an unrestricted space that you can be in. So our premise is with the Joes is we're only doing 30-night or longer stays in our homes. We're working with homes that are largely ineligible for short-term rental. And we're really trying to normalize the idea for luxury American travelers that staying longer can yield a more interesting, a better vacation. We're looking at a lot of different scenarios, like how do you work and travel at the same time? How do you think differently about the way you vacation? How do you think differently about the way you recharge your batteries? Even, really interesting articles in just this last week in the Wall Street Journal about how large companies are really looking at like, wait a minute, sabbaticals are really important for employees. Kind of coming out of the pandemic, there's been so many changes in the way people are working, and everyone was working remotely, and everyone had to go back into work. And now companies are saying, wait a minute, we find that if we give our employees a little bit more freedom, they're actually doing better work. They're more
So
committed.
true.
You know,
Yeah.
and so really trying to kind of lean into that space and say, how do we provide a product that works well with, how do we get consumers excited about this type of product? How do we normalize this? And working with companies like Abode, who you obviously are predominantly short-term rental, but you've got all this, we don't even know what it's called. We call it midterm rental. Some people call it monthly rental. There's all these different names, but and so we're trying to provide a service as well where you're saying, hey, I've got this product that's really 30-day only. It's harder to book. Our platform is only for 30-day or longer. So as we build out our customer base, our intent is to work with property managers who have product like this, who are having a hard time booking it, or property managers who have access to more product like this and haven't wanted to take it on because it doesn't feel like an easy channel. For us, if we can drive more bookings, then property managers now maybe can have access to more product. I think a lot of property managers are in markets that are really restricted. All the vacation rental is already there. There's no new product coming to market
Yeah.
because you can't get the permit. So that's kind of some of what the Joe's is trying to solve, and that's
It's
what we're really
perfect.
focused on.
Yeah.
But the other part of the Joe's that I'm really excited about is really trying to layer on a lot of my own experience in the luxury hotel market to provide a different type of experience. And it's both on the way that we're interacting with our guests, but also on the way that we're running the business. On the guest side, we're doing really heavy concierge services. We're really leaning heavy into a team of dedicated professionals. I know, Rachel, you've got your own team and you do a great job. A lot of property managers we work with aren't really, they're not really worried about that. It's not a big part of their
Yeah.
business because
No, it's so
they're,
true. Most companies aren't doing that, and there's a lot of really good reasons why they're not. And so I think it's an amazing niche to fill, honestly.
and we want our guests when they come into market, if they're coming for a month, we want them to have all kinds of great adventures so that they want to do it again. And if we help them have those adventures, not only are they going to want to do it again, they're going to want to work with us and work with our team again. And as we grow, we're looking to be, we're already opening up like 8 or 9 markets as we speak. We're hoping to be, a global player in 24 months. So we're really growing quickly, but we want to make sure that we're providing really great service for every guest. On the back end, we really want to lean into a lot of the tricks of the luxury hotel market because it's the same consumer. The people that are coming and spending, you know, 50,000 a month to stay in a house are the same people that were spending 1,500 a night to stay in my hotel. It's not a different market. So the same way we were getting the guests at Farmhouse, we want to do the same thing with the Joes. And I think that in the vacation rental space, it's interesting because you guys don't play by the same rules that the hotels play by.
Right.
Like you're kind of a lot of you, I feel like, didn't even grow up in the hotel industry. So you're kind of like, oh,
No,
we don't
no,
do it
most of
that
us
way.
didn't. No, yeah, it's like we don't have that, right? It's like vacation rental companies, so many of us came in, this is our first foray into hospitality, or maybe there's like some restaurant background or, but honestly, I think most companies, especially like OG, the ones that are from, more than 10 years ago or whatever, it's like mom and pop and it's not hotel background. And so it just like it formed like completely different. And I think what I feel like now is it's like it formed and it was like, a V, like we were diverging like two different ways. And I feel like what you're doing is so interesting to me because I think we're coming back, right? There's now as the vacation rental industry matures, there's becoming more and more similarities. We used to consider ourselves so different, right? And it's like, wow, as the industry matures and standards start to form and we start discussing the concept of tiers and we start, you know, really understanding there are some really good solid ways we can all agree on that some of this stuff works. It's what kind of makes you realize that we are more similar to hotels in so many ways. And I know even for me, like my husband and I have been looking at potentially like acquiring, sort of small boutique hotel type concept, really like similar with you with Farmhouse. And then, and it's all like it just kind of winds itself back and forth. And I think there's so much to be learned as we realize the similarities. And to me, this concept that we've been talking about this season about working with travel advisors, this is a huge area where vacation rentals have a lot to learn from what hotels have done with travel advisors. And I'm not saying we have to do it exactly the same, but I do think there are some great lessons. I also think hotels inherently are going to have an easier process, at least currently, working with travel advisors because there is a framework built that allows for travel advisors to for hotels to distribute to travel advisors. And that framework doesn't exist very easily for vacation rental companies. But I think someone like you that has hotel background, you're going to be able to understand better, knowing how it worked with hotels, how you might be able to fit in with the vacation rental model and how that can kind of merge together. And that's what I'm hoping we can talk about.
Oh, yeah, yeah, no, and I think it's a lot to talk about. I have a lot to say on this
It is.
topic.
We'll never
We're
cover
gonna have
it
a
all,
hard time
okay?
keep.
But right? We'll just cover some basic, like, key points here. One of the things with travel advisors is, like, this concept of trust and curation, and so far on the episodes, we've already talked somewhat significantly about really more about that framework that vacation rentals don't have to operate within. Like, we don't have the ability to just, like, put our on the GDS or whatever. We can't list the same way. But to me, like some of the really important points that I feel like you probably have good background are this concept of like how when a person is using a travel advisor, it seems like this conversation shifts from like where can I stay, which is more of like a go online and search to like who can I trust, right? When I'm figuring out where to stay. And that lends itself to the concept of curation. And so I don't know, do you have some feedback on like curation and kind of the shift from, like a search randomly on Google or something to wanting to feel like there's someone to trust and how that relates to people who are managing vacation rentals. They're wanting to get those vacation rentals in front of more people. And one of the ways is through travel advisors. So how does that all play together?
Yeah, no, so I think, there's a lot to unpack there. I think, so one of the big trends that we're seeing in kind of the luxury travel space is travelers want more unique, more one-off experiences. They're really like the era of like the big box hotels is kind of coming to an end. Four Seasons and the Ritz-Carltons, they're going to be around forever, but the next generation of travelers are more curious, they're more intrepid, they want to be more off the beaten path, and they're working with travel advisors because they want those travel advisors to help them find these unique adventures that they don't have the time to find by themselves. So travel advisors, well, they love to work with hotels because it's really easy and it's formulaic and it's all structured. What's really driving the market right now is the consumers don't want those experiences. The travel advisors are having to get a little bit out of the comfort zone and say, all right, well, my guests want to do this and I'm going to have to find them this. So where we as the vacation rental industry really need to step up is we need to be ready to work with those advisors and we need to make sure that those advisors can trust that we're going to deliver what we say we're going to deliver. With travel advisors, more than any other channel you work with, even direct to consumer isn't as challenging as travel advisor when it comes to trust. They don't want to send their clients to you if they do not trust that you're going to honor all the things that you say. That
'Cause
is
it's not
the number
only a
one
risk
golden
for
rule.
them, it's not only a risk for their client, it's a risk for their relationship with their client.
Right, and these are often people that these are people that they've been working with sometimes generations, sometimes they have the entire families. There's so much at stake. One bad trip can cost them a massive client, and so they're so protective of that they have to feel absolutely positively sure that you're gonna be their partner in making sure that guest has an incredible time, and if there's a problem, you're gonna be there. And I think the beautiful thing is I think a lot of people in the vacation rental industry are exactly that, right? We care about the guests. We care about making sure they have a good time. We care about the home. We care about all of the things that we should care about. We just haven't done a great job communicating that to the travel agents in ways I think the TA community can believe and trust that we're gonna follow through. And so I think that's a big part of it is just building the trust, proving that we are gonna be there through the good and the bad, and that we're gonna treat their client as good as they would treat their client. And if you can't do that, then don't touch this market because if you don't get it right, it creates a lot of additional headache. Travel agents will, they will beat you up over stuff that a client wouldn't. So you really have to be prepared to like if you're gonna stick your toe in, you got to be able to like see it all the way through.
I mean, do you have any suggestions on like and I don't want you to like, I'm not asking for you to share any like secret sauce unless you want to. But like to me, it's more about like, is there some ways that you've thought about this? And if it's not like specific examples, even like mindset, because I think it's a really important point that vacation rental companies generally, they haven't worked with travel advisors at all or very much, right? And it's kind of like you have to pass that critical mass, or you have to like reach the point on the fulcrum, right? Where you like, it creates a lever. And so it's like, there's that, any vacation rental company, until they've gotten some great reservations repeated from travel advisors, they're not going to be able to see the benefit of like putting in the time and effort to be able to create that offering, right? And so it starts to feel, and I know from my own experience that like you can feel like, well, what do I have to do? I don't know the way to communicate this properly. It seems like an insurmountable, task. So maybe I just don't do it because I haven't gotten a lot of bookings from them anyway. So whatever. And then in my experience is like we did start to work harder at this. We had some good reservations and then we pushed it farther and we realized the benefit and we moved past that center point, right? But I don't know if you have some advice for people if they're kind of just getting started. It's like, how do you get beyond that, like that kind of concept of like, this is just too much work and I don't know why.
No, it is, and you do have to it's a big investment. It's an investment of time, and there's some costs associated with it as well. I think one of the things just to really, I think that's important to reiterate is, you know, travel agents themselves can be challenging to work with. A lot of them aren't, a lot of them are. The real benefit of once you can kind of get into the travel agent network is they talk amongst themselves, and it brings every win you have with the TA drives more business to you. So I think that's the first thing just to put out there is a lot of people say, well, TAs are hard to work with. I have to pay them a commission. Why would I do it? But it's not the one individual booking it. At Farmhouse Inn, 35% of my business comes through travel agents, right? It took me a while to get there. So, so once you get it up
It's
and
a
running, it starts
multiplier
to
on
feed itself
itself.
and
Yeah.
it becomes like a huge channel. As far as how do you start? I think the very first thing you need to do is you need to figure out what are your policies. Are you going to pay a commission? How are you going to pay the commission? Who is going to be the primary contact for the travel agent because they don't want to call and talk to a different person every time. So, you have to kind of there's some kind of low-hanging fruit of kind of how does our organization work with the travel agent community in a way that's going to make them feel comfortable working with us, right? And I think once you get that figured out, put it on your website. If you've got an FAQ section, yes, we work with travel agents. Here's a special email address if you want to, work with us. This person on our team is our dedicated travel agent person. It doesn't need to be, it can be someone who's already on your reservations team and you're just like, hey, John, you need to like, take the lead on this because you understand the commission structure because that's an important part. They're always going to, the TA community as a whole feels like most vacation rental companies don't want to work with them. So they're very cautious about even reaching out. And Rachel, I've had a few leads. I think, like, I'm not doing short term. I'm only doing 30-day. I'm getting everyday TAs. No, can you help me find a house in Miami? Can you help me find, I need a 12-bedroom house in like Park City. They're already coming to me because they're like, I don't want to deal with this, but you know these people. Can you find people that are reputable?
It's like
Um,
they're treating you like as that third party, like almost like a consortium or like there's those, I think they're called consortiums, right? Like there's the DMOs, they're sort of like sometimes travel advisors will work through that. And then if they trust you, they're coming through you. To me, that's just another example of showing that like if you can build that relationship, it's exponential onto itself, right? Like because these travel advisors are looking for resources for these unique stays, like you're talking about. And so they just need a way in, right? But they've got to trust you. And I always say it's kind of like a real estate agent. Like a real estate agent, if you do well, if you're a property management company and you're looking to have real estate agents recommend to you, which is like really common thing that we do, it's not only about that one real estate agent that you're hoping to build the relationship with. But they have their team, they have their morning meetings within their brokerage. They are going to be sharing info. So, like, goes well with one of them, they're able to recommend you to others. And I think it's the same with the travel advisors. They work on teams, they work as part of larger companies. If you do well with one travel advisor, then they're on their message boards and they're communicating with each other. And people are saying, oh, I need a resource in wine country, or I need a resource in the mountains or whatever, and they're going to be like, oh, I have someone, and that's going to get you exponential references, exponential referrals.
and that's 100% why you want to work with them. I mean, because
Yeah.
the network is huge and they all rely on one another to resource how do I tap into these markets. And so, if you have one success, that'll drive another agent your way.
Yeah.
The more successes you have, the more business you're going to get. But I think from the property management perspective, you've got to open the door. You've got to hang your shingle and say, I work with travel advisors. My company values these relationships. We want to work with you because they're not going to work with someone that they don't feel like wants to work with them. And so,
Yes.
but you've got to take the first step. You've got to take the initiative. And I think you also have to, realize it's going to take time, and it's a higher touch relationship. They're going to be more in your business. They're going to want to know more things than most clients are going to want to know. They're going to want, there's going to be more correspondence, and so you've got to be prepared to do that. But at the end of the day, once you sort of figure out like, oh, they just care about their clients the same way I care about my clients, and we work well together, and we celebrate wins together, and oh my gosh, like, and then, the other part of it is a lot of travel advisors are, it's kind of similar to like the property management world where like a lot of them didn't start in the hospitality industry. They started doing other things, and they just sort of were like, "Oh, I love to travel." And then I started planning trips for my friends, and all of a sudden they decided I can make money doing this. And so they don't always have like the like they're developing the relationships themselves, but it's a really a relationship based industry. It's not as big and corporate as a lot of people think. It's a lot of independent travel advisors working from their homes. They might be under the umbrella of a larger affiliation, but at the end of the day, they're just picking up the phone and calling people.
Totally agree.
Call them back. They're
It's
like,
so
"I like you. I
similar.
wanna work with you." Yeah.
Yeah, just like us, like we're all out here, in vacation rentals. And now, this industry is starting to mature a little bit, right? But it's still young. And it's like for so many years, all of us were out here. There wasn't great software in the beginning, right? Like there wasn't as much conference options and like ways to network. And so we were all literally out there just making it up. And anytime that somebody would be able to impart knowledge, right? You were just so hungry to learn. And I think that's so true. You're right. Like the travel advisors are the same way. The travel advisor industry, it used to be, travel agents, and it was a different model. And this new version, it's new. And they're all out there. They're hungry for knowledge. Like whatever we can share with them, they're going to want. And it's like, I think it's the step in vacation rentals. The step forward is like the shift from, oh, this is annoying, this is commission, to like change the mindset on it and make your framework, make your mindset more about like, this is how, someone that needs us, we need them. How can we share information together? And like to that end, do you have any advice about like ways to present, like ways that people can present their portfolio or the property that they manage? Because we've talked so far in some episodes about like these options where, some companies will do like a white labeled website is kind of what they call it, but like a website that's unbranded, right? Like, so they'll have all of their listings from the booking engine feed to an unbranded website. So like for me, it could say like mountain vacation rentals or something, not my company. And it would just be unbranded so that the travel agent would have a link that they could send to their clients that would show all the information, but wouldn't like send them to my website where they could theoretically book on their own. So that website doesn't have booking capability. It's just displaying the property info. Another way that people do it is they have a way that they can pull a PDF from each of their listings easily that pulls like an unbranded, just a sort of PDF with just the property photos and listing information again without, like giving that PDF any like contact info. And so it's just something again that a travel advisor could easily share with their client to explain the property, but not to, it's to still allow for boundaries where the travel advisor is going to be the one, handling. And I don't know if you have any other ideas about like ways people do that. Those are the kind of the two biggest ways we've talked about. I think those are probably the more standard ways. And it doesn't have to be that exactly, but like ways that you've learned that make it easy to share property information with an advisor in a way that they would like to share it with their client, not just a link to our regular website.
Yeah, and I think both of those are great examples. I mean, we do for the Joes, we just do a PDF that we generate from the listing, and it's basically what the travel advisor wants is they don't want the client to work around them and book directly with us,
Yep.
right? They want,
Which makes sense.
and right, because they don't get paid if, they're getting commission on the bookings. And some of now there's a trend where a lot of agents are charging a planning fee because they have the expertise and they feel like, you know, if I'm going to do all this work and you aren't going to book it, I should still get paid for my time. But a lot of agents are, the planning fee is a small percentage of the revenue that they make with what even coming through the booking. So you got to preserve that and protect them, right? And if you don't, you're going to make an enemy with the travel advisor community, and that will stick with you for a very, very long time because they talk amongst themselves, and and they don't like to work. And I think that's been a little bit of the concern about getting into the vacation rental space is they haven't felt like they can trust all the operators out there to work with them in a way that makes them look good in front of their clients, right? So that,
Which it makes sense, right? And I think it's been so hard. Like, I know for us as an operator, we don't have easy ways within our own software to track that a guest came through a certain advisor. Because sometimes, and I've experienced this myself, where a guest will book for many years through a certain travel advisor, and then they'll just start calling us, right? And so I have to be always training my team on, like, if this happens, we should still pay the travel advisor that they came through originally, right? Like, at least for some period of time, we should still pay because that's how it came through. But I don't even have I have to do that manually, right? Like, I don't have the current option in my software to, like, flag someone permanently or whatever. And so I think, like, this conversation and this way that we can talk about this. So number one, we can all understand, like, hey, okay, if a guest comes to you through a travel advisor, and if they then come back to you the next year not through them, you may want to think about still telling the travel advisor that that happened and still paying them for it, right? Just like in a real estate situation, it's like, if it's someone is someone's real estate client, you would really, like, want to honor that in any way possible. And it's the same with this. And so to me, it's like, we need better tools that allow us to do that more readily, right? And I don't know how you feel about, like, a situation like that and how you'd handle it, but
I will say, I think if you can catch that and if you can pay the commission to the travel advisor, you will earn their respect for the rest of their lives, right? Even in the hotel industry, we have a really hard time tracking, linking a guest to a travel agent if they booked through the travel agent before. But even if you get it right, 10% of the time, you're still going to show the travel agent community that that you care about their relationship with their client, that you care about your relationship with them. I don't think that that's absolutely critical. What you don't want to do is you don't ever want to have any type of interaction with the guest that the guest would go back and say, "Oh, well, they told me next time to book with them directly." Like, that's really where things get kind of prickly, and TA community will say, like, "We don't like this. Why are you doing this?" And I think a lot of there's kind of this mindset of like, "Oh, well, if you book with us next time directly, you can get a better price." Like, yes,
right.
but don't
Not in this
that's not the way it works.
situation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's tricky because I think there's a lot of chat around, like, pushing for more direct bookings, like people that started in the industry and they might have just started by listing on Airbnb, and now they're learning about building their own, direct booking site and how do they work to get bookings directly. And I totally understand all that. It makes sense. Now, how do you also train a team to understand that concept, but to also know, but if it comes to a travel advisor, don't do that. Do not try to pull it back in direct through a travel advisor. And, like, here's the reasons why. And you're having to, like, train on this. But I do think that that kind of training is important and worthwhile. And it's like, sure, what, this is, like, adds a level of complicated, but, like, of complication, but I think it's worth it, right? Like, it's like, as you mature in a business, maybe you start where you're just listing on Airbnb, and then you start listing on some more channels, and then maybe someone has their own website, they start marketing that. You're adding levels of complexity, right, throughout that. And then to me, it's like you are maturing as your business gets to a level where you can really have standards and you can have consistent execution on what you're providing in service levels to the guests. It's like, then you're kind of ready at that point to start offering through travel advisors. And if you're going to do that, then you got to train on understanding how it's like, now that those relationships are not about bringing someone back directly. These are about fostering the relationship. And I don't know if you have, like, advice on, like, starting to begin relationships with travel advisors in the vacation rental industry or how to foster them over time.
Yeah, so I think what I would recommend is first, figure out what your policies are, get your team set up. Like you said, there's kind of a level of maturity as an organization you need to have before you take this on because you want to make sure you've got the resources available to support this business. Make sure you've got it on your website. Make sure that it's crystal clear to the TA community that you work with them. And then I would say get some bookings through TAs, learn from those experiences. And once you kind of feel like, all right, I'm having some wins. We're working well together. Um, I like the business that I'm getting, then I think you can really think about how do you now amplify this messaging, right? There's a lot of different ways you can do it. You can travel by advisor community is really active on social media. So you can start using your social media channels to talk about, oh, we work with travel advisors. You can start following travel advisors and see who they follow, and they're going to follow you back. Or you can even look at working with like DMOs who work exclusively with the travel agent community. And in the hotel industry, there's thousands or companies out there that work as intermediaries between hotels and the travel agent community. A lot of them are now starting to work in the vacation rental space too, because more and more travel advisors are saying, I need access to better vacation rentals. My clients are asking for better vacation rental options, and we don't know who to work with. So, and it's a relatively, you can work with a lot of these DMOs for a relatively low monthly expense, and that's going to get you exposure. The very best thing you can do if you've got the time and you've got the energy is go into market and meet with them. And, and it's not every market, but like Dallas, New York, Atlanta, Los Angeles, there are certain markets that have massive amounts of high end producing travel advisors. And you go in and it's called desk sides, and you schedule appointments and you sit down and you do presentations and you talk about who you are and you forge relationships, but they remember your face and they like, they want to work with people that they know. We do a lot of, we take people out we'll do lunches. We'll go out and say, let's, we're not going to talk shop. We're just going to get to know each other. Right. But that all lends to building the trust that you need to build to work with them. And I think, and so it's not an overnight process. And at Farmhouse, it took us, and in the hotel space, which is already kind of an established industry that works with travel advisors, it probably took us about 7 years from when we first
I
started
was
the
going to
journey
ask that.
being
Yeah.
to being like, all right, we have got this all figured out. There's organizations like Virtuoso, which you can, as a vacation rental company, you can get into Virtuoso, but it requires recommendation to Virtuoso agents who've worked with you. So you can't, that's a down the road. Once you've had a lot of wins, you can think about that. But once Travel Week's happening right now in Las Vegas, we've got our we've got a leisure sales manager for the Joe. She's in Vegas right now talking about what we're doing. It's like 10,000 travel advisors coming together, and all they do is meet and talk and network. It's 5 days. It's crazy. It takes a month to recover from it, but like you get so much exposure from these events. But you've got to have a whole, like, it doesn't happen haphazardly. You've got to have a plan that you're working against to get in there. The other thing to think about, I think, for a lot of vacation rental companies is work together with partners. Find other companies you can work with and say, let's band together. Let's do maybe we're going to do a site that's just for TAs, but we're going to list our product. Rachel, you're going to be the mountains, and I'm going to work with someone who's going to be in San Diego. We're going to share resources, and then we can maybe hire someone who will go out and pitch our portfolio, but we don't have to bear all the costs. We can share the cost. Like there's a lot of creative ways, and I think it's really just but it all comes from saying, I want to work in this market. I want to pursue this channel, and you got to build it like step by step by step. And the travel advisor community, they're going to be cautious. You've got to earn their trust and their respect. And so, if you're sitting around waiting for them saying, well, I'll work with them if they come to me, but I don't want to chase them, you're not going to get the business. And I will say, like, and if you want, and again, not every property manager needs the business, right? There's a lot of property managers we talk to who don't even want to work with us because they're like, oh, boy, we have more demand than we can handle. And that's great. But that I will say the travel advisor community has access to a lot of really high net worth people who are kind of like, I don't care what the price is. I just want what I want. And those are great clients to get.
Yes. It's like, so there's no denying that, right? And I've known like our business over 18 years, we have been working with travel advisors, not in like the most complete way, like some of these other companies have. We, for most of that time, were just trying to do our best. We didn't really understand how we were going to be able to give them, like, present to them the way they needed to because of what you said, Joe. Like, because we don't have this framework to lay out to them our cancellation policy, the commissions, like all of that stuff. We could do it on one conversations, but we just not having a better framework, you know, we haven't felt for most of the time that abode, I mean, like that we were able to do this on a larger scale. We're lucky because we're in luxury. So there was a lot of demand coming to us. So we have worked with travel advisors And I've seen the benefit over the years, right? Amazing reservations come through the travel advisors repeatedly. So it's not deniable. And then, like one of the episodes that I did recently, a few episodes back, I pulled a bunch of statistics on the growth of travel advisors, and it's bonkers, right? Like the numbers of growth, nothing under 50%. So you're talking like from last year or within the last couple of years, the growth of how many people, and then this was specifically in luxury, but how many more clients are using travel advisors? How many more of those people are traveling more than they used to? They're spending more than they used to, and they're doing it through travel advisors. There's all kind of stats on this. Like it's not up for debate. Right. And
And I
so
think, and don't you like, I hear a lot and it's interesting. And if you think about kind of the life cycle of travel advisors, I remember when I was a kid, like we had a travel agent, her name was Pam. We go to her office to get our airline tickets, right?
right, you
And
get
a
your
lot of people
actual
think like,
ticket.
right, you get your paper ticket and like it smelled weird in there and there's a bunch of old ladies, you know what I mean? And like, a lot of people are like, oh, that was a bygone era. People aren't working with travel advisors anymore. And it's true. Like when the internet really, you know, boomed in like the late like early 2000s, 2010, 2012, everyone had a presence. People were like, "Oh, I don't need to work with travel advisors anymore. I can do it myself." Now, pretty much all luxury travelers of all ages are realizing, like, I really, really want to make sure I have an amazing trip and the stakes are really high and I can't get any of it wrong. And the travel advisor community, it's a very low cost to work with them. They're going to guarantee you're going to have a great experience. It's really interesting to see like Gen Z is really leaning into travel advisors, like this generation of young travel, people that are, in their 20s, post college, making, six, sometimes seven figure salaries are working with travel advisors at a level we've never seen before. So there's all these new
Because the new
audiences of
model's
travel.
different, right? The new
Yeah,
model is
and,
that, the guest is not even always paying
right.
more to work with a travel advisor. And
And
so
and they and these
that's
travel advisors are
genius.
young and they're hip and they're out and they're
Yes.
traveling and they know these markets really well and, and they're opening doors for their clients that would never be open before. So it's continuing to evolve and it's cool to be a travel advisor now. And it's if you're a social media influencer and if you are traveling a lot of these people are also travel advisors because it's like a natural like, "Oh, I love where you're going. Can you help me plan a trip?" "You bet I can." And you're seeing like more and more of that happening. And so again, even I think this idea that like that this travel advisor, that model is dead. It's, who would work with them? Why would you work with them?
Well, the old
But it's like
version, right? But
right.
it's
But the
different
new
now.
version's really cool. And I think,
Yeah.
I challenge people to go out and look and see like it's not what you think it might be. And that's what I think the biggest misconception I hear from people is they have this image of like what it was like in 2008 to work with a travel advisor. It's not like that anymore.
I agree. I mean, one thing is like, so because um, I've experienced, because I have a good friend who's like a top 100 for a travel advisor. She was like on one of our first episodes this season. And she's the one, like, when I was planning a trip last year for my whole family, my kids and our au pair, and everybody really went, to Europe for a few weeks. And so she helped plan that. And I remember that that was like the first bigger trip that she did for us. And I was not sure like how that would go or if it would become more expensive. And what I found was that it was not more expensive and it was way better and she made it amazing. And so like that was the proof to me. Like I experienced that and I realized why my clients were wanting to do this more. And I think this like shift where it was sort of like, oh, what is this? Like we're beyond that at this point, right? Like this now there are a lot more people that are booking through travel advisors. They are likely to book a hotel if they use a travel advisor and that's their preferred way of booking travel because they don't have to do it. Someone else is doing it for them. There's that trust piece built in. If that travel advisor doesn't have easy access to vacation rental, products like options for lodging, they're going to push those clients to hotel and those clients are gonna go with that because it's just easier. And I as a vacation rental company owner, I experienced this when we went to Europe where it was like I was open to whatever and she was putting us in hotels because it was just so much easier to find like the right lodging for our group because she had so much more access to that hotel inventory. So to me, that's kind of my reason of doing all these episodes as well is like I want all of us to be talking about it and thinking about it because it's really not a huge lift to get from where we all are in this maturity of our industry to be able to put this product in front of travel advisors, but we're going to have to do a little bit of work on it and we're going to have to do it a bunch of us are going to have to do it to make it like the shift instead of a onesie twosie thing to like a full, yeah.
And I think the more you can, and I love that you're doing this, and I love that you're being a voice for this industry. The more you can work together, the better it's going to be, right? If you have one operator that's acting badly, that's doing a bad job, it hurts the whole industry. And I think the hotel industry, figured out a long time ago that travel advisors are good to work with. So we created infrastructure and a process. So we all just, it's like a formula we all follow. We all do it the same way. It's really, really easy. And you're totally right. Travel advisors will pick the path that's easiest for them if it makes their clients happy, but
We all
what we're
would. I mean,
seeing. Right.
that's why like vacation rental companies don't like doing it, right? Because it's like, oh, it's too hard. It's like, okay, but listen, if we talk about it a little bit more and we think about it a little bit more, we can solve that, right? But we're gonna have to try to solve it. It's not just gonna like be presented in front of us. Actually, to a bunch of people, it probably would be presented, but some of us are gonna have to do what you and I are doing right now. Talk about it a little and yeah.
And some of us gotta lead the way, right, and come back and
Right,
share
exactly.
successes and help the industry understand. And the other thing is, and I said this earlier, the market is changing, and travelers more than ever want to do one-off experiences, and renting homes is high on everyone's list, so the travel advisor community can't ignore short-term rental because their clients want homes. They wanna be in villas. They don't wanna be in hotels. So they're really, like, being forced, not forced, but, they're getting more requests than ever for product outside the hotel space, and they're desperately trying to find partners and build relationships with operators that they can trust, right? So the time has never been better to be like, "All right, let's start working with travel advisors," because, they're hungry to find
This is the
operators that they can
moment.
work with. Yes,
Right?
yeah.
It's like this is the moment. Some travel advisors are booking vacation rentals, right? And there's a ton of them. All of them probably are feeling pressure to find ways to book vacation rentals more readily. And I think some vacation rental companies are feeling the pressure to find a way to work with travel advisors. But overall, like really, there's pressure for all of us if we pay attention to work with those travel advisors. And so then there's this piece that you brought up, and I brought up too, that's like there's these boundaries or parameters that the hotel industry has an easier way of sort of slotting in their components in order to make that visible to the travel advisor community over like on a large scale. And so since we don't have that in vacation rentals yet, and hopefully we will at some point, right? But since we don't, I think like the key components that you brought up that any vacation rental company should be considering as, like if you're doing what Joe's saying and you're letting people know on your FAQs and on your website and in your social media that you do want to be offering up your available inventory to travel advisors, that you do want to work with travel advisors. The next part is like when one of them is calling you, reaching out, you have to be understanding what is your cancellation policy that, to me, it's like I would be wanting to adhere to my typical cancellation policy with the travel advisor, but you're going to want to be able to explain that easily to them, probably in a quick something written that you can send to them so they'll have it readily available. You want to be able to understand what commission that you would pay because I can tell you from experience there were years I didn't really know what I would pay and it would be these conversations every single time on a one off of like, well, what commission do you want? Okay, well, let me see how I can figure that out. So it's like, here's a great method that we can all work on. Understand what you could pay, what you'd be comfortable with, right?
The
Yeah.
the the clearer you are on your policies, the quicker you can get to, "Let's talk about the booking." If you have to have a 20-minute conversation, negotiating the cancellation policy, negotiating your commission, all of that, the agent's gonna say, "Forget these guys. They're too hard to work with. They're not ready."
Yes.
So just draw a line in the sand,
Know what
commit
it
to what you can
is.
commit to. And
Yeah.
and travel advisors are really great. If you tell them, we've got a like at Farmhouse, we have a 14-day cancellation policy at the hotel, right? A lot of hotels have a more generous cancellation policy. We're a small hotel. We run at a high occupancy. It hurts us if we get cancellations. We do not waiver. We tell them that. We are crystal clear. They're like, "Got it." We'll make sure our clients understand, right? Like they're not afraid to tell their clients what the policies are, even if the policies are more rigorous than maybe you think they should be, or you're concerned, like, will they like it, will they won't like it? They just wanna know that those are the rules, and those are the rules, and you're not gonna change the rules on them halfway through, right? So you just write it down somewhere, have it on your site, have it in your reservation
Like
center, make
being
sure they've got all
vague.
kind of a.
Yeah, it doesn't make it better, right? Like if I know for years my husband and I would be like the ones involved in doing all this ourselves. And it would be like, oh, well, I mean, our cancellation policy is usually this, but do you need me to make it different? It's like that actually didn't help us. Like,
No, well,
because
you have to
again, these
remember that,
people,
right?
right? They just want you to be able to give them what it is, right? So you want to know what your cancellation or your commission policy is, and you want to have it written so you can easily copy and paste it and send it to people so that your team knows. Because this is like a huge part of the obstacle right now with travel advisors and vacation rentals. It literally is just the parameters. And I think one thing is when you have a mindset, and I feel like I've kind of harped on this on like almost all of these episodes, but I think it's really important, and I know for me, it was important because I lived not doing what I'm saying right now. Like I made the mistakes.
We all did, right?
And right. But it's like, you just need to know, understand what you're paying when you're booking through OTAs, when you're booking through other channels. This is like really, it's hard to do. It's easier now. There's good software that can help you figure this out. For a lot of years, our software didn't make it easy to even understand this. And we had to do harder math than I think a lot of us were capable of figuring out. But now you literally can use the tools that you have within your business. Like even your most basic tools will be able to help you figure out what is the percentage that you're paying to get your reservations when you're getting them through Airbnb, through VRBO, through booking.com, through your website, even through your website. When there's not an OTA, you are paying for marketing, for SEO, for whatever other marketing you're doing. Like, what is the cost of that per reservation, right? You can figure this out. It's not the easiest thing. It's definitely more possible than it used to be. And it's like, once you know that, now you can understand, okay, at 10%, I think is like, an easy, like for travel advisors, if you're willing to pay 10%, that's putting you in a great position, right? So it's like, how how real is that for you? Right?
And I'll tell you, Rachel, when Joe and I started the Joes, I formed a little think tank of travel advisors that I knew really well, that, that were really well respected in the industry. And we had, discussions about, commission, and they all said, just pay 10%. Like, because I was saying, and that was hard for us when we first started, and we kind of changed our models. No, we pay the commission that comes out of our fee, because a lot of the property managers we work with just won't pay a commission. They're like flat out, we don't pay commission. So we have to be able to say all of our properties are bookable by a travel agent, because we make
I
sure that
think this
commission
will
is paid.
shift soon. I really do. I
I
think
think so
as
too.
more of us understand our own profitability and our own costs of doing business, we'll be able to understand that 10%. But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
And
off, but
and
it's,
I
yeah.
think no, and I think the point that you said was really spot on. It's an investment you're making in growing your business, right? So don't think about it as, oh, every time I get this booking, I have to pay this money, and if I would have gotten a different booking, I wouldn't have had to pay it. If you're successful in winning over the travel agent community and they like what you're doing, they're going to send you more business, and all of a sudden it becomes a whole nother channel that's sending you business. And at the end of the day, bookings, I don't I don't know the math on how, everyone's kind of different, but I would think that direct bookings from travel advisors with the 10% commission are going to probably still be more lucrative than pushing it through Airbnb and paying their commission, right? So it's not even that
It's a
expensive.
mindset too. It's
Right,
honestly
yeah.
a mindset, right? Because it's like, say with Airbnb, you might be inflating the rate that a guest is paying through Airbnb might be inflated to some extent to somewhat or even fully cover what you're paying to Airbnb, right? And the same thing you might do with VRBO. And there's all different ways. And then this is the other decision that I think vacation rental companies have to think about and also kind of take a stance on, which is when you're going to have a booking that comes through a travel advisor, is that reservation going to be at rate parity with what's listed on your website? Or would that have some sort of inflated rate that you would be telling the rate you would tell travel advisors? Would it be at all inflated to somewhat cover or fully cover this commission? And like this, to me, at least within our industry in hotel, this is different. But currently, and vacation rentals, there you have the ability to decide that. And so the key is, and again, I learned this from all these years not doing this right, just decide it and then just state it because plenty of travel advisors will be fine without rate parity, meaning if the what's listed on your site is not the same rate they're going to tell their client, a lot of them will be okay with that, especially if you have a way to share the listing information with them that is not your website, listing.
it's a little more opaque and, and I totally agree, if someone's booking, if a travel advisor is booking Farmhouse Inn and then they tell the client goes right to my website,
Right.
puts their dates in, looks at the rate and says,
Right.
okay,
Some
well,
hotels
what's
have to
going
have
on?
it.
Right. Because we're all, because it's super easy, you know, when you, it's, I think the whole idea of like doing a PDF that you can send to the travel advisor that doesn't have your company name on it, it's harder for the guests to figure out who the property management company is, where the home comes from. And at the end of the day, like you don't want to take advantage of the situation. You do want to have a strategy that makes sense, it's defendable. But the other important thing that I've learned, and again, I'm in the luxury space, a lot of times the biggest issue the travel advisor has isn't what are you charging? It's what services are you providing? How do I know you're going to take good care of my guests? So I think a lot of us and I like you, Rachel, in the early years of Farmhouse, I was on the phones, I was taking reservations. People were like, hey, we want to come next weekend. Can you give me $100 off? We're so beat up by when you're working direct to consumer and they're trying to get a deal. The travel advisor community isn't as concerned about the deal. So don't make that the problem. Like a lot
Or
of
like, don't
times, like,
overthink it. Yeah,
right,
yeah,
yeah,
don't
yeah,
make
yeah.
it the problem. You're right.
You're like, "Oh,
It's
it's a
like
100,000 a month," and they're like, "All right, great. What does that include?" I'm like, "Oh, we're not gonna talk about that. Like, you're okay with that?" Like, "Okay, yeah, okay, like, how often's housekeeping? All right, let's go into all that." The rate isn't usually what they're gonna hang up on, it's all the other things you're doing. We are so hardwired to be worried about the rate because we know that that's what a lot of our direct bookings are really, what they're really digging in on. So it's a different mindset as well.
yeah. And it's a I mean, I have found the differentiation piece that takes you from ongoing conversations that don't ever get anywhere with travel advisors to those conversations that you can close really easy. It is what you're saying. It is like knowing the answer to the questions, not like let me check, let me ask my husband and figure that out. Let me talk to my team and oh housekeeping. I'm not sure. Let me see what it's like. How about this? Have a policy at a stance. So it's cancellation policy is this. It's commission. Oh yeah, we pay 10%. No, it's not rate parity, but it's close or whatever. Maybe it is rate parity or whatever. Or maybe it's we're going to add that commission on the top. But don't worry, I've got a PDF or an unbranded website link. I'm going to send you all the info. So this is not going to be something where, the person would have to search really hard. And let's face it, if they're coming to a travel advisor, they're trying not to search really hard. So this is not as much of an issue. But then, like you're saying, if you're especially if you're gonna say there's not rate parity, well, then it's like, okay, let's talk about housekeeping availability and pricing. Let's talk about concierge services availability and pricing. All that stuff. It's like, make it so there's an answer.
Well, and the other thing too, and if you can layer in a special perk, there's some special thing, they love that, right? So, you got a relationship with a vendor who's going to do a free day tour, or you're going to leave something, whatever you can do that sort of is like, well, this isn't the same as the people directly booking through my site. That's a big win too. And again, I think it's what you said is spot on. You got to keep it like stupid easy. You got to have all your rules. Like they don't want if they have to email you 3 different times to figure out what your housekeeping policy is, they're not going to ever email you again, right? Just have it all figured out, live
If you're
by it.
loosey
These
goosey,
days,
if you're not sure of the answer, it's going to be like, oh crap, I don't know if I should risk my relationship with my client on this person who doesn't know what they're talking about. So it's like, this is not crazy hard either. You know what? Like, go through. We've given anyone who's listening, if you're in the vacation rental industry and you're kind of like, okay, maybe I should start trying to work with travel advisors. It's like we've given you a bunch of these questions, right? It's your cancellation policy. It's what commission will you pay, and are you paying it to keep the same rate as what's shown on your website? Or are you saying you're going to pay that commission and some part of it or all of it is going to be like layered on top so that it won't be rate parity? Know the answer to all of that. And if somebody wants housekeeping, how much does that cost additional? Not that housekeeping at the end, right? But they're going to want mid-stay housekeeping. How much do you charge for that for each property? And what is the availability? I'm figuring that out. What extra services do you offer? What's the availability and the pricing on that? What am I leaving out, Joe? Like what other those are
and
the
I think
big
that's
ones, I feel like.
and it's yeah, because what you want is you want to be able to be like, all right, let's talk about the product. Let me tell you what homes I have, right? Like that should be like a 10-second like look at my website. Here it is. It's all there. If you have any questions, we can talk about it. Oh, great. You looked at it already. It all looks good. Let's talk about inventory. They want to get the deal done. They're working on 20 vacations for 20 different clients. And if they are like, oh God, I got to call Rachel again because she never got back to me with that thing on housekeeping, like that, right? That, and you've got to present a more professional like stance, right? And we
Yes,
all are capable of
trustworthy.
it, right?
Yeah.
And it's just taking the time to have that figured out. And it's not reinventing the wheel. You can look at, go to
We
hotel
don't need
websites,
to.
go
Yeah.
to other property management websites, Google property managers that work with travel agents, read their policies. You can see what other people are doing, and I think, and I think it's just, and it's not, it's anyone out there who's thinking about doing it, you can spend half a day, figure out, look at, find 10 examples of what other people are doing, make your decisions, set your policies, and then put on your website, we work with travel agents and you're good to go. Like it's not, it
And
doesn't
you'll
need to be
see,
this.
you start having the interactions with the travel advisors, and you'll see, like, if you have these parameters in place, if you have sort of the decisions made, the right, the answers for the questions that are going to be asked, you have those ready to go. You see that those travel advisors, they want to book vacation rental inventory. They want to book what you have. They just want to feel that like they can trust you to be professional. And the thing is, most companies are so much more professional than they used to be. And now you just got to be able to know that when you talk to a travel advisor, you don't have to feel weird. You don't have to think it's like you're starting over. It's like, hey, you could have the answers, you can provide them, and you will see that those reservations book. It's crazy.
And the travel ban and they're gonna be thrilled. Like, they're gonna be thrilled to be like, "Oh, you speak my language. This is so great." Like, "Oh, right." And so I think, it's not a big lift. It really isn't. It's I think it's
No.
the mindset that you gotta get
It's a
over.
mindset. It's
Yeah.
fully the mindset, right? It's like we all had to get used to, I don't know. For me, it's different because we started before like Airbnb was a thing. And so I
When
kind
did
of
you start?
started, well, so it's 18 years, like oh wait.
I was gonna say we started in '02, so same thing. We
Okay, yeah.
pre all the internet
Right.
things that
That's
all
and
the
we had to
OTAs.
get all this stuff figured out. But I think the majority of vacation rental companies, they started mostly by thinking about, because it's that concept of like, oh, an Airbnb, I'll buy a property and it'll be an Airbnb. And. But so it's like if you've started with that concept of having a property on Airbnb, and then you've had to shift your mindset to your own website and how that works to present yourself professionally. Or if you started without the Airbnb mindset, you've built something that has profession that like you're able to offer it professionally on all these different channels. Now it's just like, yep, this is a new distribution channel. And it's really, to me, the mindset that helps is you think of your relationships with real estate agents, those relationships that help you add to the portfolio of properties that you manage. You build these long term trust relationships with real estate agents so they can trust to bring their clients to you so you can manage their houses. This is very similar. It's just on the guest side. And it's literally just the mindset of like, oh, okay. Okay, this is like a partner. This is an ongoing relationship. This is a relationship that will bring me other similar relationships. There's like a huge monetary value in this. This is like a way to grow revenue. And yep, it does take like some framework that we have to build for ourselves currently. But realistically, if enough of us just kind of do a good job on this, it will not be hard for like the next phase of this where we would hopefully have a framework we can start slotting all these details into. And it wouldn't be like we have to do it one off the way we are right now, but it's really even in a one off situation, it's manageable.
Well, and what you just said, I think, is exactly right. We all do what we do because we're relationship oriented people, right? Like,
Yes.
you don't take care of guests if you don't want to have relationships with them, right? And I think, the world of kind of all the OTAs and the Airbnbs and all of that, it really is in direct opposition to our desire to be in relationship with the people that we're working with. The travel agent community is an opportunity to get back to being like, I have a relationship with this person. We know each other. We trust each other. Like, it's what we're good at already, right? And it's the exact opposite of what, like Airbnb, try to talk to a human. I don't think they exist. You know what I mean? So
And think about it, we're always talking about, like, fighting against Airbnb, like, not or VRBO, like, not letting us have enough guest interaction until a certain point or whatever. It's like, "Hey, this is a model that you could have that interaction right off the bat, especially if you can show this travel advisor that you're professional. They're gonna be, like, connecting you with the guest. You have the access you've always wanted."
right, and everyone's aligned, right? We want our guests to have a great time. The travel advisor wants their guests to have a great time. Hey, we want the same thing. We work well together. It's just, so the whole relationship piece of it's a huge part of it. And it's what we're already all good at. You know what I mean? So it's already in our wheelhouse. It's why we chose to get into hospitality.
Yes, I feel like, it's like it seems so obvious when you talk about it. Like when I have these conversations, it's kind of like, I mean, why am I even talking about this? So obvious. But I also think I have lived in the role of the person who's like, do we have to book through travel advisors? Why do we have to pay them? Like I have said these things. I have had those thoughts, right? And so it's like, I get it. I totally get it. And to me, it's like there's a learning that happens when you move beyond that mindset and and so I really want to try and help 2 things. I wanna help vacation rental companies, move beyond that initial mindset and see kind of through the trees and, like, see how great this can be. And I also wanna talk about this enough that I either manifest or somehow get, like, the ears of enough people that we begin to find a way forward with a framework similar to the one that, works for hotels, but one that's slightly different that, works with the model of all these individual properties. And it's like, it's just so close that I feel like the conversations are gonna.
Well, and I think, kudos to you for leading the charge on this. I think it's happening, and I think, and what's gonna happen is at some point there'll be like a tipping point where the vacation rental industry will do such a good job that the travel advisor community will start to say, "I can trust the vacation rental industry like I trust the hotel industry," because everyone is working well together. We're not there yet. It's still probably a few years away, but we're headed there, and it's
We
coming,
are.
and, and that's
It
the
makes
great news.
sense. Like, they
It's
were waiting for this industry to mature. I mean, valid, like it needed to, and we're so close, right? And also, it's like we feel on the vacation rental side, we feel like, oh, we have to do extra work in order to make this happen. And on the travel advisor side, they feel the same way. It's kind of like, oh, and so that's how we end up getting to the point where we can work together more easily. And like, I don't know the history on this, but I guarantee I probably should ask like Ashley Ching and her husband Mike Ching. They've done a lot of research on like the history of hotels and how hotel brands kind of came to be, and they've done really cool research at their companies in Haven. And I love everything they do. I should see if they would do a study on this too. They've done like some reporting that's been really helpful. But it's like I don't know in what year there was this shift for in the old days like travel agents and however that used to work with hotels and like how it moved into technology when everything was started to be on the computers and how when did they create the GDS and the systems that, travel advisors now use to book hotels. But like for sure, that didn't always exist. And there was some point where that became a tool that everybody used. And so it's like we're just getting to that level within our vacation rental industry. And so I love look, I mean, you and I both are like this. And I think most people in our vacation rental industry were like this. And in travel advisor industry too, and hotel, we are all hospitality people, right? It's like I think the stat is 1 in 8 people in the world work in hospitality, but I've been told it's really more like 1 in 6 or 7, which is mind blowing, right? Like how many humans on the planet work in hospitality? And it's like when you work in hospitality, if you're good at it, if you love your job, even when it's like really busy or whatever, it's like you have that gene, you have the hospitality gene, you want to connect with other people, you want to make other people happy. And it's like all of us, we're talking about vacation rental people and travel advisors, we all have the gene. So, like, all of us are just striving to make our customers happy. So, I mean, the technology is going to have to catch up. Like, it's close. We'll get there.
And it'll get there, and I think the good news is, why does the technology exist? I think a lot of the you have these mega brands like Marriott and Hilton, and, they invested in technology because they had literally thousands of hotels they wanted to make available. We don't have that in the vacation rental industry, but that's okay because the travel advisors will still book your properties if they understand what your policies are, they trust you're gonna do a good job, and they feel like you are committed to providing a great experience to their guests. They don't need all of that to work with you. Like that's not necessary. What's necessary is just the basic things we talked about. I feel like maybe you and I should do like a little manual after this that we could work on that we could distribute. That's sort of like kind of like a one pager on what you need to do work with travel agents. Cause I'm like, it's really so simple.
I mean, it's like, look, it's like some of us just need to be some of us just need to take the steps. Anyway, for people who are listening, okay, if you're listening and you're like thinking, okay, I really want to talk to Joe because it sounds like he knows what he's doing, or he's been on the hotel side and I want to, pick his brain about it doesn't have to be about travel advisors. Like that is what we're talking about this season on the podcast, but you could pick his brain about a lot of stuff. And you could be wanting to talk to him about the Joes because the concept of the Joes, which he touched on. And I think this is something that has like very cool and probably deserves a lot more conversation, or definitely does, is this idea of, the type of properties that have restrictions and how you can work to get to stay within the rules, to not be a like a bad player, right? Like to not go against rules, but to also be able to offer that property to operate within the parameters of like local government, but also to be able to make that property available in the right conditions. And that's what part of, to me, that's what I see the Joes doing. And that is so valuable because this is possible, right? I know I operate in Jackson Hole, one of my three markets, and there's very, like spot on to what the Joes is doing, like the 30-night restriction. This is really something that we're used to with that market. And there's ways to do it, but it's not just super easy. And so a company coming in like the Joes that can understand these concepts because of where they started in wine country and being so used to those parameters, it's like there's ways to do this. So being able to offer to companies like me or to anyone out there with vacation rentals, like, hey, we know how to work within those parameters. We can market this so that you can get reservations that follow the rules, but still allow for that revenue to be created for the company and for the homeowner. Like this is an amazing concept. So I do think if you're hearing us talk about this, whether it's about the travel advisors or whether it's about these 30-night restriction type concepts and how a company like the Joes can help you work within that more easily, then you're probably going to want to talk to Joe. So how should people reach out to you? What's like the best way?
My email is super easy. It's Joeb, Joeb at thejoes.com. My partner's also named Joe. I don't know that I said that. That's why we're the Joes, but email on anything. I love to talk about the hospitality industry. I love to talk about what we're doing. I mean, like Rachel, I sit on a million boards. I sit on all these committees. I'm a huge marketer. I'm visit California. I'm on a committee for them. Like I'm really, involved in so many things about that amplify the hospitality industry. And I love to talk to other people in the industry. So please, if you have any interesting things you want to talk about, you have questions, you're like, oh, I want to like pick his brain on this, drop me an email. And I would love to talk to you. And it's kind of my favorite thing to do. You talked about like being in the hospitality industry and loving to talk to people. That's how I found my way in the hospitality industry. I was just like, I love to talk to people and this is really fun. I want to be around people. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And this is why, like, when I started this podcast and people were like, you should shoot for 30-minute episodes, I was like, it's never going to be less than like an hour ever. And it's almost all my episodes are somewhere between like, I don't know, 52 minutes and like an hour and 15 or something. And it's because like I do talk too much and I like to bring people on that like to talk too. And I feel like there's so many of us that are so passionate about what we do. We have so much knowledge because we have experience, right? Like we have years under our belt and we're not trying to keep a secret. We're not trying to be like, don't tell anyone. It's like, hey, I learned a lot. I want to tell someone, I want to share with other people so other people don't have to make the same mistakes. Let's all make new mistakes and learn new things. We don't have to do the same stuff over again. So I'm super grateful that you're willing to like come on and share some of your secrets and your experience. Not everyone is willing to. I do think in our industry, like it's pretty awesome that there's so many of us that are willing to talk about it. And this is how like the next phase of business gets to the next level, right? It's not by people hoarding information and keeping their secrets. It's really by us having more conversations. And I think this topic is like just so timely. I also think, honestly, the Joe's concept is so timely. So I'm super grateful because I'm sure you're very, very busy and you just gave me over an hour of your time. And we're here like telling, a bunch of people, hopefully, how they can learn from all the stuff we've already learned. So I'm super grateful. Thank you for coming on and doing this with me.
This is
Did we
awesome. I loved it. I'll do
I'm
it again.
glad.
Whatever you want to
Okay,
talk about, keep me in mind. I love
whenever
doing
you
this.
want.
So thank you.
Well, okay, so we're approaching like the end of this season. We do like 10 episodes per season and we're going to get to the end of this like travel advisor group of episodes soon. So, Joe, if you have any ideas on like what the next season could be, just send me an email. And if anyone's listening, if you have an idea, like I'm always open to what the future seasons could be. There's always new topics we need to discuss. But in the meantime, I guess we'll probably close it here. For sure, everyone who's interested in hearing more and talking to Joe, you should reach out to him. We'll put his contact info in the show notes. And otherwise, thanks for listening. And hopefully, we'll see you next time on the Hospitality Break Room. Thanks for listening to the Hospitality Breakroom. This season, we're exploring how the vacation rental industry and travel planners can work better together, and we're just getting started. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. And if you found this conversation valuable, share it with someone in hospitality or travel. We'll see you next time in the Breakroom.